Tensions between the United States and Iran have entered a volatile phase as widespread protests inside Iran face an increasingly violent government crackdown. The situation has drawn global attention not only because of the scale of unrest, but also due to sharp warnings from Washington. President Donald Trump's statements have raised fears of possible military escalation, while regional allies quietly work to prevent actions that could destabilize an already fragile Middle East. Several U.S. allies in the Middle East have urged the Trump administration to avoid launching military strikes against Iran. Senior officials from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, and Oman have communicated concerns that direct U.S. action could severely disrupt the global economy. These nations fear that any escalation would deepen instability in a region already struggling with conflicts, energy insecurity, and fragile political balances. Diplomatic sources indicate that Arab officials have been in continuous discussions over the past several days, emphasizing restraint and de-escalation. Their message is not rooted in support for Tehran's leadership, but rather in the broader consequences of conflict. Leaders worry that military confrontation could spiral beyond control, triggering retaliatory actions that would affect trade routes, oil markets, and regional security arrangements. Oil markets have already reacted to the shifting rhetoric coming from Washington. Prices dipped as investors interpreted President Trump's recent statements as a possible step away from immediate military action. Market observers view this decline as a signal that economic actors believe diplomacy and pressure tactics may take precedence over direct conflict, at least in the short term. Despite earlier threats, the White House has maintained a carefully calibrated position. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reaffirmed that all options remain on the table in dealing with Iran. This language preserves strategic ambiguity, allowing Washington to apply pressure without committing publicly to a specific course of action. Such ambiguity has become a defining feature of Trump's foreign policy approach during moments of crisis. Inside Iran, the protest movement has faced severe repression. Activist groups claim that at least 2,600 people have been killed during the government's crackdown, though these figures remain difficult to independently verify due to a near-total internet blackout. The regime has tightened control over information, limiting outside reporting and making verification of events inside the country increasingly challenging. Arab leaders have privately called on Iranian authorities to immediately halt the violent suppression of demonstrators. They have warned that continued brutality could provoke reactions that place the entire region at risk. These officials also cautioned Tehran that retaliatory responses to any U.S. action, whether against American interests or regional targets, could result in serious and lasting consequences. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz emphasized that military intervention remains a possibility. He described President Trump as a leader focused on decisive action rather than prolonged diplomatic debates. According to Waltz, Iranian leadership should not underestimate Washington's willingness to act if the situation continues to deteriorate, particularly if civilian deaths mount further. Despite these strong warnings, President Trump has signaled possible reconsideration of immediate military action. On social media, he highlighted reports suggesting that Iran had halted executions, including a case involving a young shopkeeper. Trump described the development as positive news, expressing hope that restraint would continue, though Iranian state media disputed key details of these claims. Iranian authorities rejected reports of halted executions, stating that the detained individuals faced different charges and were being held outside Tehran. This contradiction highlights the ongoing information battle surrounding the crisis. Conflicting narratives from Washington, international media, and Iranian state outlets have made it increasingly difficult to determine facts, further complicating diplomatic efforts and international responses. President Trump is known for deliberately keeping his intentions unclear, a strategy designed to maintain pressure and unpredictability. This approach has been evident in previous confrontations involving Iran, where statements often shift rapidly. By avoiding firm commitments, Trump aims to keep both allies and adversaries uncertain, allowing flexibility while maximizing political and strategic leverage during escalating international crises. A recent example of this strategy dates back to June of last year, when Trump publicly stated that a decision on striking Iran would be made within 2 weeks. At the time, the statement was delivered through official channels, suggesting deliberation. However, within 48 hours, U.S. beta bombers carried out strikes on key Iranian nuclear facilities, reinforcing Trump's reputation for sudden and decisive action. Analysts now suggest that logistical and military considerations may be influencing Washington's current restraint. At present, the Middle East lacks a deployed U.S. aircraft carrier, a critical asset for large-scale military operations. The absence of such naval power limits immediate options and raises concerns among planners about operational readiness should a sudden escalation occur.